50 bags of rice for one useless girl. That is the best business I have ever done.
After everything my father did for this family, you sold me.
Girl, stop crying. Your new life has already started.
You sold me like I am an animal? After my father trusted you? Your father is gone. Nobody's coming safe now. Leave me. I'm not going anywhere with these men.
From today, girl, your life belongs to us.
The day Ada's father was buried, Madame Beatrice did not cry. She stood at the graveside in her black lace dress, a white handkerchief pressed to her dry eyes, nodding slowly as the pastor prayed. The village women around her wept loudly, beating their chests, calling out the name of Chief Raymond Okafor, a good man, a generous man, a man who had loved his daughter with everything he had. But Beatrice did not cry, because Beatrice was already calculating. Ada was 17 years old when she lost her father. She stood at the edge of the grave, her wrapper tied loosely around her waist, her face swollen from 3 days of real tears. She had not eaten, she had not slept. All she could think about was her father's voice, the way he used to call her name every morning like it was a song. Ada, my Ada, come and eat before the sun gets too hot. Now there would be no more of that. Her stepmother touched her shoulder at the graveside, a brief cold touch, like someone brushing dust off a chair. Ada looked up, hoping for comfort. Beatrice looked away. That night, the house felt different. It was the same compound, the same zinc roof that sang when rain fell, the same mango tree by the gate, the same cracked cement floor in the parlor. But something had shifted. The warmth was gone. Chief Raymond had been the warmth of that house. Without him, it was just walls and air. Beatrice called a family meeting 3 days after the burial. She sat at the head of the table, her table now, and spread out a sheet of paper covered in numbers, debts, loans, unpaid bills. Her 2 biological sons, Kevin and Frank, sat beside her with straight faces. Ada sat alone on the other side. Your father left us nothing but trouble, Beatrice said, not even looking at Ada. She borrowed money from 4 different people. Chief Amos alone is owed 200,000 naira. If we do not settle these debts before the end of the month, they will take this house. Ada looked at the paper. But Mama. Do not call me Mama, Beatrice said quietly. The words landed like a slap. Ada closed her mouth. From that day, the cruelty became official. Ada was moved from her room to the back of the house, a small room near the kitchen that smelt of kerosene and old yam peels. She woke before sunrise to fetch water, sweep the compound, cook breakfast for Beatrice and her sons, wash their clothes by hand, and then walk 3 kilometers to the roadside to sell pepper and tomatoes to help pay off the debt. Kevin and Frank did nothing. They slept late, wore fine clothes, and spoke to Ada like she was the house girl. Ada, where is my food? Ada, the generator needs fuel. Go and buy it. Ada, lower your voice when elders are talking. She bore it all. She bore it because her father had loved Beatrice, and she was trying desperately to keep peace in his house. But peace was not what Beatrice wanted. 6 months after the burial, a man named Chief Salami came to the compound. He was fat and short, with small eyes and a loud voice. He arrived in a black Toyota Jeep with 2 boys who carried things for him. He sat in the parlor and ate the fried fish Beatrice had prepared as though he owned the place. Ada served the food. She did not know who he was. She did not know why Beatrice was smiling so wide, a smile she had never seen before. She did not know why Kevin and Frank had been sent out of the house that afternoon. She would find out soon enough. Chief Salami came back the following week, and the week after that. Ada began to notice things. The way his small eyes followed her when she moved through the parlor. The way Beatrice would position her, Ada, come and pour the juice, directly in the man's line of sight. The way he would nod slowly, like a man inspecting livestock at a market. She told herself she was imagining it. She was not imagining it. On a Thursday evening, Ada was in the kitchen grinding pepper when she heard voices from the parlor. The window was small and high up, but sound carried clearly in that house. She froze when she heard her name. "The girl is strong," Chief Salami was saying. "Not bad-looking either. She will do. She is a good worker, very obedient, no trouble at all. And she is truly unattached. No man is following her." "Who will follow her?" Beatrice laughed softly. "She has nothing. She is nothing. Her father left her with empty hands." Ada pressed her back against the kitchen wall. Her heart was beating so fast she could hear it. "Then we have a deal," Chief Salami said. 50 bags of rice delivered to your gate by Saturday. That is my final offer." A pause. "Agreed," Beatrice said. Ada stood in that kitchen for a long time after the voices faded. The pepper she had been grinding sat forgotten in the mortar. Her hands were shaking. She wanted to believe she had misunderstood. She wanted to believe that no mother, even a stepmother, could do what she had just heard. She went to her room that night and did not sleep. The next morning, Ada tried to leave. She packed a small bag before sunrise, a change of clothes, her father's old Bible, a photograph of the two of them taken at Christmas 3 years ago. She was going to walk to her Auntie Ngozi's house in the next town. Auntie Ngozi was her father's sister. She would understand. She got as far as the gate. Kevin was waiting there. Frank was behind him. "Where are you going?" Kevin asked. His voice was calm, which needed more frightening. "I need air," Ada said. "I am just—" "Go back inside," Frank said. "I am not your prisoner," Ada said, her voice shaking but her eyes steady. "This is my father's house. You cannot—" Kevin took the bag from her hand. "Go back inside." She went back inside. By Saturday morning, a truck arrived at the gate. Ada watched from her window as young men unloaded 50 bags of rice, stacking them neatly in the corner of the compound. Beatrice stood at the door counting, a small smile on her face. When the last bag landed, she turned and looked toward Ada's window. Their eyes met. Ada felt something cold pass through her. Not fear, not anger, something deeper, a grief that had no name. That afternoon, 2 men she had never seen came with a small bus. Beatrice told her to pack her things. Ada refused. Beatrice slapped her, once, hard, across the face, and said, "You think your father is here to save you. Pack your things." Ada packed. As the bus drove out of the compound, she looked back through the dusty window. Beatrice was already walking back inside. She did not watch the bus leave. She had already moved on. The compound gate closed. If this story is already gripping you, if you can feel Ada's pain in your chest, subscribe right now. Hit the notification bell because the best is not even close to over. Stay with us. They drove for 3 hours. Ada did not know the road. She did not know the town when they finally arrived. The estate was large, a long compound wall with broken bottles cemented along the top, a heavy iron gate, and 2 guards who opened it without a word when the bus arrived. Inside, the main building was old but wide. A long veranda, big rooms, expensive furniture that looked like it had not been touched in years. There were other women there, 3 of them, sitting in a room off the main hallway, their faces carrying that specific kind of tiredness that comes not from work, but from hopelessness. A thin woman with a sharp face came to receive Ada. She introduced herself as Mrs. Comfort, which Ada thought was the most dishonest name she had ever heard. "You will stay in room 4, Mrs. Comfort said. "You will eat twice a day. You will not go near the gate. You will be ready when you are called." Ada asked, "Ready for what?" Mrs. Comfort looked at her the way a teacher looks at a child who has asked a foolish question. "You will know when it is time." Ada was taken to room 4. It was clean but bare. A mattress on the floor, a small window with iron bars, a bucket of water in the corner. She sat on the mattress and opened her father's Bible. She did not read it, she just held it. She pressed it against her chest and sat there in the silence. And for a long time she did not cry because she was too shocked for tears. But when the tears finally came, they came with violence. She sobbed into the mattress until her throat was raw. She called her father's name. She asked him why he had left her. She asked God why he had allowed this. She asked every question that had no answer. And when she was finished, she wiped her face and sat up straight. No, she told herself, no, I will not die in this place. She began to pay attention. She noticed that the guards changed shifts at 6 in the morning and 10 at night. She noticed that Mrs. Comfort went out every Tuesday and left a younger woman in charge, a girl named Priscilla, who seemed more afraid than anyone else in the building. She noticed a small door at the back of the kitchen that led to a vegetable garden, and beyond the garden, a gap in the compound wall where the bricks had crumbled. She was building a map in her mind. She was planning. But before she could act on her plan, something unexpected happened. On her 4th day at the estate, a man visited. He came alone, without bodyguards or fanfare. He walked through the main gate as though he had been there before, dressed simply in a plain kaftan and leather sandals. The guards straightened when they saw him, but he waved them down with a casual hand. He was not old, maybe 30, 35, tall, with the kind of face that did not give much away, not cold, not warm, just watchful, like a man who had learned to observe the world before deciding how to respond to it. Mrs. Comfort rushed out of the building to meet him, adjusting her blouse and smiling too widely. Ada watched from her window. The man spoke briefly with Mrs. Comfort, who pointed toward the building. He nodded. He turned to walk inside, and then he stopped. He had seen Ada at the window. Their eyes met for exactly 3 seconds. Ada did not look away. She had stopped looking away from things that frightened her. She held his gaze steadily, and something passed across his face, not quite surprise, but something close to it. Then he walked inside. Ada sat back from the window, her heart unsteady. She did not know who he was. She did not know that this brief meeting had already changed everything. She did not know that she had just looked directly into the eyes of King Darius. What came on a Wednesday? Mrs. Comfort knocked on the door of room 4 in the evening and told Ada that she would be presented on Friday night. Ada asked what that meant. Mrs. Comfort said, "It means you dress well, you behave well, and you do not embarrass the people who have invested in you." Ada's blood went cold. "I am not property," Ada said. Mrs. Comfort looked almost sorry for a moment, almost. "That is not how the world sees it, my daughter. That is not how the people who brought you here see it. Be smart. Do not fight what you cannot stop." She left. Ada did not sleep that Wednesday night or Thursday night. On Friday, Priscilla came to her room with a dress, a long red gown that was beautiful in the way that a cage can be beautiful. Ada wore it because refusing would cost her the small freedom she still had, and she needed that freedom to think. The event happened in the main hall. Chief Salami was there, fatter and louder than she remembered, sitting at the head of a long table with 3 other men whose suits told her they were wealthy and whose eyes told her they were dangerous. Other guests filled the room, businessmen, local chiefs, a few politicians she vaguely recognized from television. There was food, there was music, there was laughter. And at the edge of it all, Ada stood like a declaration. She understood now. This was not just a sale. This was a display. She was meant to be handed from Chief Salami to another man, some political arrangement, some debt being settled, and the whole gathering was the ceremony around it. Chief Salami saw her and smiled. "Come, come," he called, waving her over. She walked forward because the alternative was being dragged forward, and Ada Okofor would walk on her own legs until she could not anymore. "Gentlemen," Chief Salami announced loudly, "this is the girl I told you about. Healthy, obedient, no family wahala, came to us clean and ready." He said it like an auctioneer, like she was a car, like she was furniture. The men looked at her. Ada looked back at every one of them. She memorized their faces. She told herself that one day, if God was real, if justice was real, she would remember every face in this room. A man at the far end of the table stood up. He was the one who was meant to receive her. She could tell by the way the others deferred to him. He walked slowly toward her, adjusting his agbada, already smiling the smile of a man who has never been told no. He was 2 steps away from her when the door opened. The music stopped. Not because someone told it to stop. It stopped the way music stops when something happens that no one planned for. The DJ turned, the drummer's hands froze, the talking died in people's throats one by one, like candles going out. The man who walked in was dressed simply. Plain kaftan, leather sandals. No bodyguards visible, though Ada would later learn that they were already inside the building, positioned, waiting. It was the man from the window. He walked to the center of the room and stood there, and the silence around him was the kind of silence that powerful rooms only produce for powerful people. Chief Salami rose slowly to his feet. His face had gone the color of ash. Your Highness, he stammered. We did not know. Nobody told us you were. This is not. We were just. Sit down, Chief, the man said. His voice was quiet, but it carried to every corner of the room. Every eye in the room moved to Ada. Ada did not move. She stood in her red gown in the middle of that hall, and she looked at the man who had just said those 4 words, I am here for her. And she did not understand. Not yet, not fully. But something in her chest had shifted, the way the ground shifts before an earthquake, warning the body before the mind has caught up. The man, King Darius, as the panicked whispers around the room were now confirming, walked toward her. He stopped at a respectful distance. He looked at her the way he had looked at her through the window, that calm, watchful look that missed nothing. Do you remember me? He asked. Ada's mind went back past the estate, past the compound gate, past the burial and the slap and the 50 bags of rice, back to a market day, 8 months ago, a crowd, a woman knocked down by a motorcycle, everyone stepping over her, late for their business, too busy for another person's trouble. Everyone except Ada, who had stopped, who had helped the woman up, who had sat with her on the roadside for 20 minutes until she stopped shaking, who had used her own wrapper to clean the woman's bleeding knee, who had given the woman the money she had made from selling tomatoes that day because the woman said she had nothing for her transport. Ada had not known who the woman was. She had not known that the woman was King Darius's mother, traveling in secret through the market town to observe her kingdom without ceremony. She had not known that King Darius, a man who ruled by traveling among his people in disguise, who judged character by what people did when no one important was watching, had been on the other side of the market that day, had seen everything, had followed Ada quietly afterward, learning who she was, where she lived, had asked about her and been told she was the daughter of the late Chief Raymond Okafor, living under a stepmother's roof. Had thought about her, for 8 months had thought about her. The woman by the roadside, Ada said slowly, the one who fell. My mother, King Darius said. The hall was so quiet that Ada could hear her own breathing. He told me what you did, he said. He told me you sat with her. He told me you gave her your money. He told me you spoke to her gently, the way a daughter speaks to a mother. He paused. My mother said, find that girl. If she treats a stranger like that, imagine how she will treat a kingdom. Ada felt her eyes fill. She blinked hard. King Darius continued, his voice still quiet, but the whole room hearing every word. I came to your father's compound to speak with your family properly. I was told you are no longer there. I began to search, and then a source told me where you had been taken. He looked around the room slowly, at Chief Salami, at Mrs. Comfort hovering in the doorway, at the men in their expensive agbadas. And what I have seen tonight is not a marriage arrangement. What I have seen tonight is a crime. Chief Salami's voice cracked. Your Highness, I assure you we did not know. You knew exactly, he said. He did not raise his voice. He did not need to. You purchased a human being. You transported her against her will. You brought her to this place to be handed over like a commodity to settle your own financial arrangements. Did you think because her father was dead and her family was poor that no one would speak for her? He let the question sit in the air. I am speaking for her. He turned back to Ada. You do not have to come with me, he said. I want you to understand that. No one will force you to do anything tonight. If you want to leave this place and go wherever you choose, I will arrange it and I will ensure your safety. But if you will give me the chance, and here the king of a kingdom, standing in a room full of powerful men, did something none of them expected. He inclined his head, a small, deliberate bow. I would like to know you properly, as a man who hopes you one day might agree to be beside him. Ada looked at him for a long moment. Then she turned to Chief Salami. Where is my father's Bible? She asked. He blinked. What? When your men put me in that bus, they took a bag from me. Inside was my father's Bible and a photograph. I want them back. Someone scrambled. The bag was found. It was brought to her. She opened it, checked the Bible, checked the photograph. She closed it. She tucked it under her arm. She turned back to King Darius. You bowed to me, she said. Yes, he said. Men in your position do not bow. Men in my position, he said, should know better than anyone what true value looks like, and they should not be too proud to recognize it. Ada nodded slowly. Then I will give you the chance you are asking for. The room exhaled. But justice did not end there. King Darius was not a man who left crimes uncleaned. Chief Salami was arrested before he left the compound that night. The transaction, the 50 bags of rice, the agreement with Beatrice, was documented and presented to the authorities. Every man in that hall who witnessed the arrangement and said nothing was questioned. And Madame Beatrice, when the king's people came to that compound at dawn, she was still sleeping. She heard the knock and came to the door in her nightwear, expecting perhaps the delivery of something she had ordered. Instead, she found officials, witnesses, and a written testimony from Ada that described every detail: the slap, the bag taken at the gate, the night she heard her price being agreed in the parlor. Madame Beatrice's face went through many things in that moment: shock, denial, anger, and finally, when she realized that Kevin and Frank were already being spoken to separately, that the neighbors had already been asked questions, that the rice in her compound was evidence, something that looked almost like the beginning of shame. She was not put in prison that day, but she was stripped of the compound, which was returned to its rightful inheritor, Ada. And she was brought before the community council and made to account for what she had done in the light of day, in front of the same neighbors that she had performed grief for at Chief Raymond's funeral. She stood there, and the council listed her crimes one by one, and the crowd was silent in the way that crowds are silent when something true is finally being said out loud. Ada did not become queen overnight. There were months of conversations, of learning, of choosing, because King Darius was a man who understood that a woman who had been treated as property all her life needed to know that she was choosing freely. He was patient, he was consistent, he never rushed her. On the day of their wedding, Ada wore gold, not red. Gold, the color her father always said her was, the color of mourning, the color of things that do not rust. She stood at the altar and thought of him. She thought of the mango tree. She thought of his voice calling her name in the morning like it was a song. She thought of a woman by the roadside bleeding and frightened, and a young girl who almost walked past and then stopped. Such a small thing, such an ordinary thing, the kind of thing no one was watching. Except someone was. Someone is always. Ada was sold for 50 bags of rice. She rose to become a queen, not because life is a fairy tale, but because character is currency, and kindness is never truly wasted. Share this story with someone who needs to hear it today. And if you are still here, subscribe to this channel.